here.
Call is
Okay. So we'll let a couple folks will jump in here, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
Kevin, so this is our, you came up with this concept of calculated risk assessment,
Right.
and we
Right.
and we wanted to actually dive a little bit deeper into that, and you know, give some folks the opportunity to ask some questions about it, and what you think the pros and cons are, and how to approach the game. And it's a real intelligent way to approach the game, and it also stops you from being too simple, so to speak, not looking at enough statistics in the game to make an intelligent choice. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to have this seminar. And we won't be able to cover everything today, so we'll have a couple follow up with this topic. So at this point, I'm going to throw it over to Kevin, and you can kind of introduce the concept and some of the things that we were talking about, and we can go back and forth and take questions, and in the chat, we'll have some chat open, and we'll kind of go from there. So Kevin, I'll throw it over to you right now. So
okay, well, and this came to me about a week ago. It just kind of occurred to me. Now and again, I have the opportunity or the urge to get up and explain just exactly what I'm doing in the casino to the dealer, maybe the pit boss, whatever. I have no problem getting up and showing them on the tote board how what I'm writing down in my wonderful playbooks that we've talked about many times, how it all comes together. In other words, how to support making the correct decision. Okay. And I started thinking about it. And I started thinking, and I've used these words many times. I'll say, Baccarat's really just educated guessing. Until last week, where it occurred to me, it's more than that. It's got to be more than that. Okay. And I came up with this concept of calculated risk, and I looked at, I looked into, the internet and everything. I said, oh gosh, this is like what actuaries do. This is how they figure out your car rates versus what your neighbor should be. This is how they figure out what your life insurance policy should cost, et cetera, et cetera. They just don't look at you and say, hey, Al, I really like you. Hey, we're going to give you a really nice rate today. Okay. They say, Al, geez, I'm not sure about you, man. Your rate's going to be a little higher than your neighbor, but don't be upset. Okay. So this whole concept of calculated risk includes not just what's on the board, not just what's on that tote board. Okay. That's in there, but also things like your bankroll and how you manage your money. Okay. And if you're prepared to play that way, you're going to make much better decisions.
Yeah,
and you're going to make decisions not to play based on looking at, calculating, if you will, kind of what's not winning or why you're not winning at the moment.
Okay. And so, Kevin, we want to start with some, we talked me and you privately for quite a bit, actually. Number one is we have the gambler or the Baccarat player, I guess, since we're basically talking about Baccarat, who's just, first of all, a mindless player who just randomly walks up, and you see them all the time, kind of a mindless or someone who just plays rote. They just walk up and they place a bet on pretty much anything. And, if they do it on video on YouTube, it's for clickbait. But
Right.
They don't take anything into consideration. Maybe they're just going for fun and they really don't care if they win or lose, which isn't a good way to play, obviously, kind of just randomly taking a stab at things. Then the next thing is what we talked about, and what a lot of folks, and you can't get stuck in this because it's very dangerous, I think, especially if you're trying to really make some money at it, is the educated guess. Now, an educated guess is better than a mindless strategy, obviously, but an educated guess doesn't take into consideration enough components or statistics in the game to go ahead and actually make an informed decision. And I think we have I'm going to put up the definition, Kevin, because we talked about this.
Yeah, definitely. Good.
Quite a bit. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there it says an educated guess, an informed estimate or decision based on limited information, experience, or intuition without comprehensive analysis. So we want to make sure that everyone is going from educated guesses to comprehensive analysis. And Kevin, you're the master of that. Maybe like, and we know we've kind of expanded it to make sure everyone encompasses all the statistics that they possibly can. So, when you're doing yours, why don't you talk about your thought process with how you went from educated guesses? Tell us about what you think an educated guess player does, and then the difference, contrast them between a calculated risk player.
Well, calculated risk player is basically doing what an educated guess player would do, but with a lot of other information analysis. Okay, looking at other things. Okay, and again, I can't put up a picture of a tote board, but I think by now anybody on this call knows what a tote board looks like.
Absolutely.
Okay. There's components to it that some people don't use. You got the B plate up in the top left-hand corner. Okay. It's got the main road, kind of across the whole page. That's kind of the biggest, whatever, they call it the big road. Underneath it, it's got the derived roads.
Right.
Okay. Which are extremely useful in helping you to interpret what might happen next. There's no sure thing. There's no for sure you're going to get this. Yeah, there's one right there. You can see the derived roads across the bottom. I talked about the B plate. You can see the main road kind of stretching all the way across the page there. You can see player statistics, blanker player, both at 44 in this one, and ties are at 11%. Okay. I'm not going to get into what I call the ancillary bets, whatever, the side bets. We're not talking about ties right now. We're talking about making the best decision you can, okay, to determine whether you think it's going to be a banker or a player next. And sometimes you decide that the information is confusing. It's contradictory. And so therefore I'm not going to make a bet. And not making a bet is many times the best bet you can make, not making a bet. Because if you make it and you lose, not only do you have to get that bet back, but you still, you're down in the hole now. And then to avoid doing that as often as you possibly can is important.
Yeah. And when you're a big one, you flat bet most all the time. I'm sure every once in a while you deviate a little bit, but not too often. And also you run the 5D. So if you don't have the 5D down, that's probably the best starting point for this type of Baccarat analysis. And you can get it. If you don't have it, it's available all over BTC Casino. It's available for free. Anybody can get their hands on it. And basically you're looking at 5 different statistics in the game, in addition to some other stuff that we're going to talk about here with derived roads. And then with the 5D approach, Kevin, or any approach, the most important thing is you're looking for the biggest disparity for the most part, but that is not contradicted by another statistic in the game. Would you say that's
correct?
Yeah. And
that's exactly right. Okay.
And, there's a certain subjectivity to what contradicts a bet when you see disparity. Now, I think if I can find it here, we had a great shoe that you sent the other day. Speaking of disparity, here, can you see that there? It was yeah. So I put this shoe that you sent me, and you played this, and just to show you, it is a real shoe. Here's the real shoe that you sent me. And just so we could see it a lot easier,
right?
I put it in SBI, and you can see there were 17 2-in-a-rows in that game, which is, obviously that's a quite an anomaly there.
Yeah, no, that's but it happens. That's what we call read the shoe.
Yeah.
Do what the shoe's telling you to do. Follow the shoe. Don't try to think, oh man, those two's got to end sometime.
Yeah.
No, say, hey, bring them on. Oh, there's more. There's more. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I wish all games were like this, but
yeah, this is an unusual one.
Yeah.
But it's a real one.
It's actually a real one. I think what was this Palace Station or was this?
Go to the bottom. I'll tell you again. I have to, let me see. I send you so many shoes. So go to the bottom. I'll tell you. That's Palace Station.
Yeah, that's Palace Station.
Yeah, that's Palace Station.
So one of the things that you want to kind of bring into this conversation, and a lot of us, of course, we have the 5D, which is a comparison of ones, 1 back, 2 back, 3 back, banker, player, and then one of your choice basically is 5D.
As a tiebreaker. Okay, but let me I need to interject. We actually have improved upon that over time. Okay. Yes. And what we did is two things. Number one, we said, let's call it 4D, which is what it is.
Right.
Forget trying to find a tiebreaker, but let's use the 10 best bets as our alternative. Like we've got a bag, of things. Oh, let's reach in and see if any of these bets are going to help us. And then more important than that is to add 4D and V87 together.
Yeah.
Okay. Visual 87. That's where you're breaking down player and banker separately.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can play 4D plus V87, it's explained in great detail on the forum, okay? It shows the scorecard and everything. If you can do that, you'll win a very high percentage of your shoes, not a high percentage of your bets, okay? You shouldn't just keep going on and on and on. Again, that gets into the risk management, you know what I mean? Because they'll ebb and flow, Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, these tools that we've developed over the years, the beauty of all this, and I'm going to get back to risk management again, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to use an analogy. I've used it before, but I'll use it again anyways, okay? And that is there's a reason that a quarterback on a football team has the playbook down to his wrist.
Right.
Okay? It's not because he's dumb. It's not because he can't remember anything, but there are so many elements to that playbook that not only he has to follow, but the other players have to make sure they know what a turnaround, button hook, right turn, whatever means for their particular position. So some years ago, I came up with this concept of why not take the playbook. Okay, it looks like this if it's closed. Why not make your own playbook? It's just a bunch of scorecards. Okay, there's some scorecard. There's a scorecard. Just a bunch of scorecards. And in the back, I just, from the things I've done over the years and that I've found from other people, I've just taped it into the back of the book. Okay, and you see all sorts of stuff in there. Okay, I've got other things. That I use. This is basically some of the things in Uncle Buck's Baccarat Bible from a long time ago. But the 87% solution, that's V87. Okay. I've got things where sometimes I can't, rather than use a card, okay, like at Stadium, it's harder to use a card to keep track of things. I'll just take, I don't know if you can see this here right on top. Okay. Those are the things I'm looking for. It says banker, player, opposites, repeats, OTBL, TBL, second liners, strong side, V87, derived roads, the donuts, the hamburgers, and the French fries, attached multiples, power of the threes. Okay. And then if I really want to get aggressive, here's this is a progression. I don't do this often, but sometimes I'll do it. Okay. This is a progression. That's what this is right here. So that plus, Keith, you did this book a couple of years ago with the 10 best bets.
Yeah.
You call that? I don't take all this to the casino with me every time. You know what I mean? But I do take my scorebook, my playbook.
Of course.
It's, if you want to mitigate your risk of losing your money, why not take the playbook to the casino with you? I have never, ever had a problem.
No.
I've had people ask me, what are you doing? I say, I'm just taking that stuff up on the tote board there, and I'm writing it down in a numeric fashion, as opposed to maybe what you see up there. I don't have red and blue ink. I use, black pens. Everybody's seen me. I got these black, these right here. These tools, TUL, black pens. Okay, I don't use red and blue. I don't need to because
So,
I keep track of the columns, banker, player separately. So I know that's kind of a diatribe. I mean, I'm not, but I get so excited about it when I say, I mean, my gosh, you can take this stuff to the casino with you because there's so much of it.
Yeah, and I think to your point there, Kevin, is that if you have all these things at your disposal, take them and like even like you said, the game is so fast, especially at stadium, that you need to be reminded of if you don't see anything, kind of take a look at the 10 best bets booklet.
Sit out for a hand or two.
Sit out for a hand or two. Do the 10 best bets booklet. I guess it's not going to come in. And everything else that you kind of zero in on. And thank you. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to follow up with was the money management thing, and which is very important. I think a lot of folks, they forget, how the casino mostly beats you. And this again is very important for calculated risk. They generally always beat the player with the same technique that they do it by just, it happens automatically, is variance. And, with the Baccarat game, what I'm trying to tell everybody is if you're not playing into a bias or you don't see a good bias, plus or minus 20, if you're flat betting one chip, is within kind of a normal distribution of what you can win in a game. So you have to be very careful about how you manage your bankroll. And I think one of the most important things is, and we forget this a lot before we get to some other statistics, is that if you go in with $500 and you're up 150 or $200, you did pretty good, especially if you're betting like 10, $20, which pushes variance at that point too. So you kind of have to temper your unit wins and temper how much you're willing to risk on every game. And I see so many people making mistakes or playing poorly because they overcalculate what they can win, but undercalculate what they can lose, especially the cats that play a strong progression. Right. It's all great and dandy when you hit a 1, 4, 6 and you hit the 4 a couple times and you go, wow, whoop-de-doo. But I think what they forget that you're trying to do when you bet a progression, especially if it's up as you lose, is you're trying to limit variance. And when it works, you're trying to limit that you don't have to win 50% of the hands. But when it wins, it's great. When it loses, it's a double whammy, because you're going to get whacked all the time. And of course, that's the casino's game, is raise the stakes so that you have to bet more and more money, because eventually you're going to lose 10 out of 15 bets or something along those lines. And everyone, I've seen it so many times. It's like, and then you're going to the ATM, or you're digging in your pocket all the time when and they got you. And then if you're trying to get back, you're starting in the hole, and then just to get even, seems to be a win. So I didn't mean to get so worried there, Kevin, but I know you have a lot to say about some of these.
All you got to do is go back to that. Go back to your definition of educated guess and calculated risk that you posted. Show it, Keith. Show it again
okay.
On the screen. I know it's a little hard to read to the size, but it's worth taking a look at it.
It's in the other thread, I think. I forget which one I have. Yeah, let me go back here.
There you go. So what you describe what an educated guess is.
Yeah.
So
an informed estimate or decision based on limited information, basically.
Right.
Okay.
So now what's calculated risk?
A decision after systematic analysis of potential benefits, risk, and outcomes using data, evidence, or structured reasoning to weigh trade-offs.
Right. And that gets your money into the game. That's how you've got to take a look at. We always talk about stop loss, stop win, that kind of stuff. Okay, right. But in addition to that, if you're however you're playing, progression, no progression, 1-2 loop, whatever. I don't really, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's got their favorite whatever way to play. It's important that as you go, as the shoe unfolds, as your bankroll does this, so to speak, so hopefully it goes like this, but as you get to certain, tops and bottoms, that you make sure you sat back and say, am I willing to go against, I said here, if I win 5 units, I'm going to stop. But that's hard to do sometimes. Well, a lot of people, it's hard for me, by the way. All of a sudden, you can win 5 in a row sometimes, and you say, yep. Whoa, this is getting easy here. Okay. And pretty soon you're down to 4, and then maybe you're up to 5, and you're down to 3, and that's what I call hitting my head on the ceiling. I can give them that 5, but I can't get beyond it. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's important too. And I think also too is, it's an old concept, from gamblers from way back, is that, I think, for Baccarat, you basically want to flat bet until you can get up a couple chips. And then once you're ahead, I'm an advocate of up as you win when you're ahead a little bit and you're willing to risk, a 1 or a 2, 3, 4, something along those lines, because you find maybe one of the 10 best bets. A strong side is always my favorite, or you see a real heavy bias with 2s. Take a chance with it, but never do it while you're in the dungeon, so to speak, trying to dig your way out. Because as soon as you do that, it's just you're gonna dig yourself into a hole, thinking, well, it's due, or this is due, or that's due. It's just something that everyone has to keep in mind.
Can you go back, Keith, to the post on loving the derived roads?
Yeah.
Let's go back there for a second. We'll go to the latest one I sent. I sent that out yesterday, I believe. And that was from the Gold Coast, by the way. And I think everybody here has probably been to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, we've all played.
Vegas is kind of, old time. That one right there. Right there. Yeah, right there. Okay. If you look at what's called the small road, that down on the bottom, okay, you see the small road in the middle. So it's the middle one.
Oh my, yeah.
We talked about V87. Okay, now blue is not player and red is not bank when you get to the derived roads. But just look at the clue that you're being given there. The blue, which will indicate a player or banker based on the risk assessment. It's not pictured here, but the predictor table, the forecast, sometimes they call it the next hand, whatever. But you look at those red circles, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. I mean, what happens on the main road, it's not going to happen in the same sequence, but that kind of information is available from the derived roads as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important that people understand that.
Yeah. So again, it's like the more information you can absorb and look at and assess, the better off you're going to be. Like you could struggle with maybe figuring out what's going on with the main road, but as soon as you looked at that derived road, it's, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Look at one of the other ones. You go post down or roll down to one of the other ones, Keith. Just one of the either the first or second one. Yeah, down to the other direction. Other direction. Yeah. Yeah, go to the other one. Keep going. Okay, there's another good example. Okay. This one again, it's hard to see, I know, in the picture and everything else, and you can tell that I'm taking it like this, and the lights, and there's my shadow of my holding the camera. But if you look at the main road, okay, yeah, you probably could get through there a little bit, win, lose, whatever. But look at what happens to the small road, okay? That's about the middle of the shoe where that started happening, by the way. If you count it all up, that's about the middle of the shoe. My gosh, how many in that row is that? 6, is that 14, I think, something like that?
Yeah.
14 blue, and then you have 1 red, and then you have 5 more blue, yeah. I think.
Yeah, well, it's 6, and then 13 or 14 to there. So
right,
yeah,
and then it comes back again.
So
and then 5, So
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that there's a wealth of information right on the tote board, right on the scoreboard. Okay, and if people are not using this, no problem. Do what you think you can. Do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But when you get into the concept of, well, I don't think I can do all this at once or whatever, sit back. You got to practice it. I mean, I had to practice. I didn't just like invent this stuff or figure it out myself. I had to practice and go through the ups and downs of that. I don't like to practice. I like to play. Okay, but if you're really trying to, again, if you're trying to use a kind of a risk management approach to things, you've got to look at a lot of variables. Again, I use life insurance, for example. They look at your height. They look at your weight. They look at your age. They look if you have any medical problems, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then they say, okay, your premium is this much per month for this kind of life insurance. Whole life, whatever, term life, whatever. They don't just say, well, yeah, we got another guy over here. He's the same age. That's the rate. They're looking at all sorts of stuff. Well, that's what I'm doing when I play Baccarat. Does it take a lot of work? Yeah, it does. Do I do well at it? Yeah, I do.
Well, your 5D.
I'm not bragging, by the way.
No, that's all right, Kevin. Your 5D approach is very statistically sound, but it's very statistically intense. But it mostly deals with the main road.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Now, the nice thing about the derived roads, and I don't know if it's it's kind of anecdotal at this point, but I've seen more longer runs of the same color on the derived roads than anywhere. And you don't have to actually keep track of them. They're calculated for you.
It's calculated by the computer.
A glance at them. I mean, you could run 5D on a derived road too, probably with success also. But it was developed for the main road. But again, the derived roads are, you see these, they kind of jump out at you just a little bit more, and you see those long runs. Like, I can't tell you the last time, and I play a lot. Last time I seen a 14-a-row banker or player, a 14-a-row zigzag. But now, and I think just in these two, we've seen, or the two you sent, obviously they were picked because of their significance.
Well, of course, I mean, I'm going to show the most.
Of course,
but you can see it.
So you can see it, but it does pop out at you a lot easier sometimes on the derived roads than it does on the main road. And I think I guess we should push people to kind of, and that's the whole point of it, is there's a lot more information that's readily available to look at. And of course, the most important thing is, if you don't see anything on the main road, you don't see anything on the derived roads, is leave the game, and we don't, a lot of players don't do that, man. They're always like forcing stuff, which is, that's kind of a bad thing. And sometimes that's the bad thing about sitting at a table.
Let me stop you right there. You just said a very important thing. Okay. If you just have one methodology, one system, that's all you got. Okay. You've got to let the shoe come to you and see if it'll fit in there or not. You don't start off trying to apply it to the shoe and pretty soon you're down 5 or 6 units, because that particular, I call methodology, that particular system, it ain't going to work on that shoe, or at least not right now. It's not going to work.
Right.
Okay. That shoe has to come to you, or you got to have a lot of different things, a lot of systems that and have practiced and understand. And then you can say, oh, you know what? This is, this is the Big Eye Boy Road. This is the B plate. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't play the B plate. I've read about it. You can Google it. You can read it. Watch videos, whatever. I don't do it. I know a lot of Oriental players play it. Okay. And I see them up there standing there, look at okay. I don't do it because I've got my hands full with what I am doing. Someday, maybe I will do it. Okay. but I'm not denigrating it because, you know, there's information in there, there's patterns, there's whatever, just like there are on everywhere else here. The important thing, again, though, to remember is I don't think there's anybody on this call or anybody that missed it that would say the only thing you're really interested in is winning money, right? I mean, yeah, it's nice to go to the casino and you get a free drink and, you know, you get to watch a lot of things going on and stuff. But you know what? Deep down, I don't care if you play online. I don't care if you play stadium. I don't care if you play, you know, at the table, whatever. I don't play online, but I do play stadium and table. And I got like blinders on, man. I'm in it to win, you know, and that's really the only thing. I mean, I'm willing to help people, you know, but maybe the way I approach it is not the best way for you. But if you're going to be a long-term player, which I have been, it's important to understand you've got to work out for yourself the best ways to keep track of this. Okay. But no matter what you do, okay, I would hope that you would create your own playbook and take it to the casino with you. Yeah, my gosh, there's so much information in here, you know. And I sit there and I go, you know, and then periodically people ask me, well, what are you looking at? And I'll say, hey, it's the same stuff that's up. I do it like this. It's the same stuff that's right up there on the you know, on your tote board, you know. And if you'd like, I'll be happy to show you. As a matter of fact, if you recall, when we went to the Bahamas, it was they were closing up for the night, and I had 2 Baccarat dealers, a Blackjack dealer, the floor manager. Tom was with us, you know, and I sat there for a half hour, and I showed him. Now this means this. This is what's happening up there. Mm-hmm. You know what? Tom and I walked out together. Okay, it was in the Bahamas. And we looked at each other and we both started laughing because I said, he probably didn't understand a word I said. But I wasn't trying to mislead him.
No.
This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking at, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's one of the things we try to get everybody away from at Beat the Casino too is, and when we practice, when we have our online practice sessions, now over the last couple practice sessions generally we have them tonight on Thursday night, is we'll deal some cards, and then, you know, we've been doing the F5, V5, you know, but again, we're forcing that system on a game that we don't even know. The game should be evaluated first to say, okay, what's going on in this game? You know, mm-hmm. It's kind of, you know, it doesn't, that isn't the way you should play. And sometimes people forget that. Like if we're practicing, we're practicing to show you how a system or an approach should be thought out. But what we should put in it, and I should remind everybody, is that there are other variables that come in when we're practicing, like, well, this isn't really the shoe for this. You know, maybe it's time before last would be an easier way, or, you know, maybe the derived roads are showing us something else. And we need to always keep that in mind because, you know, I mean, that's what, you know, system sellers do. They'll send you a system and say, go play this. And the problem with that is when they sell stuff like that is if you sell 100 systems, you know, and 100 people go out and play it, a certain percentage of them are going to win, you know.
Yes. Yes.
You know what they're going to say? Well, man, it was great. You know,
right.
I'm glad I bought it. You should buy it too, because I went out and won. And a certain percentage are going to win 2 and 3 times in a row. And then you have all these testimonials about how wonderful this is. But that isn't the way, the reality of it, of how it works. Eventually, the variance is going to catch up with you. And so, you know, the most important thing with, you know, again, going from an educated guess to a calculated risk is to consider more variables, the derived roads, the 10 best bets, the 5D, the 3 strategy,
right.
F5, V5, if you like that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think maybe after this call, you've posted kind of the beginning, the definition of the, you know, the calculated risk as opposed to, you know, educated guess. I think if you publish this document that we came up with.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in the thread. Yeah.
I mean, it gives you examples. I mean, big businesses do this, you know. I mean, billion-dollar businesses. You know, they got whole departments to do, you know, what I call risk management.
Right.
And it's not just about, you know, life insurance and auto rates and stuff like that. It's about should we, build a factory in this location, whatever, there's all sorts of stuff. Okay. I think this would be really helpful to people.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they can think to themselves, okay, well, yeah, here's how that would apply to Baccarat.
Right. And we, for our next follow-up to this one, we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into that document, because it's a very rich document.
It's a rich document.
It's an extremely rich document. And, we just put up the first two,
right.
But those things that we came up with will make you a strategically better player. And so, we'll follow up with another one. But I think to get people into this is, I hear a lot of people who are not considering enough statistics. They're looking at it and going, well, I'm playing OTB4L because I see this and I see that, and then that's the end of it. You can't do it that way. You got to constantly be scanning the derived roads and the other statistics, I think. And it's hard, it's easy just to sit down and go, okay, well, this looks like OTB4L. Well, how come? Well, here's a couple zigzags and maybe here's a 3 in a row. So I'm going to play OTB4L or time before last. And that isn't the way to do it. I think anyone who struggles with the game, falls into that trap. And it's real easy to forget that this is a thinking person's game. You have to be constantly sharp and thinking all the time, because look, man, you're betting real money and they're trying to take your money. So you have to be very strategic about it, I think, and not fall victim to the casino environment. Relax, have a drink, talk to the waitress or whatever it is you do, and listen to the music and all this stuff while they're relieving you of your money. So, I just think it's real important to stay fresh and keep all this stuff right at the forefront. You made a good analogy. Someone who's just an educated guesser might just say, well, I'm just going to bet banker because it has an advantage. And you see a lot of players doing that, by the way. That's sure. Kind of a very simplistic way of looking at the game. And you want to get as far away from that as you can and make strategic bets. And you always want to at least believe that when you do risk analysis, is you want to bet. And by the way, if you flat bet and then sometimes you don't bet, you actually are betting a progression. You're betting a 0-1 progression, but you want to bet more money when you have a greater chance to win, or you perceive that you have a greater chance to win. And it's a small edge if you do it. But you want to bet 0 when you don't have any idea. And when you see a bias or a trend, whichever it may be, then you want to bet, and you want to bet more, which is 1 instead of 0, when you believe you have a greater chance to win. It's the most important thing you can do. Don't randomly bet anything. Some people like betting a small progression, 1, 2. If you perceive that there's a trend in the game and maybe it'll come to fruition after the next bet, sometimes that's okay. But you just have to be real careful about betting progressions, because you're trying to eliminate variance, and you've got to get your win rate up to over 51, 52%. And if you do that, you'll run into those good spots and make better decisions to become a winner. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I just going to say this, that, we've discussed, the betting progressions many times. Again, I think that's an individual matter. I really do. I like to flat bet mostly is just my own personal thing. You know what I mean? If I keep win flat betting, I'm very unlikely to win with the progression for a long period of time. I'm going to get caught at the end. Something's going to happen, and I'm going to go, oh, I just lost 4 hours worth of work.
Right.
I'd much rather realize today's my day and, go somewhere else, go to another table, come back the next day, do whatever it is, whatever it is.
Well, I think the worst time to bet a progression is when you're behind. And the only time I'll bet a progression is if I see a strong side, and I'll go up a little bit up as you win. And I've had some really, some of my best wins were doing that when I see a strong side. And I remember we were in Vegas playing at Palace Station. I know Rail Rabbit and Mookie were behind us, and you were behind us, and we were like murder in this shoe. And it was to the point where I was so far ahead. I said, well, 9s and 7s are winning all the time. So the first time I've ever bet a 9 against a 7, I put $5 on it. You looked at me and laughed. You go, you just won it. I bet it one time in my life just because we were so far ahead. So, yeah, and it was kind of an up as you win streaky game, very predictable. So, but yeah, you know, that's probably the only time that I would recommend to anybody bet it. As I've seen, you know, fortunes lost betting negative progressions in a lot of different games, and especially extended ones. You know, just chasing. And you can go into the casino usually every day and watch that kind of stuff.
I think, you know, again, everybody needs to do whatever they're comfortable with, whether it's a progression, whether it's this, whether play that, do this, you know, whatever. Ultimately, it's your decision. Whoever's listening to this, okay, or sees this, it's your decision, okay? The idea is, can you develop a way, you know, I call it your own way, you know, to take this kind of information and put it in a format. You know, the 5D format may not work for you. I don't know. You know what I mean? System 40, you know, like I don't like to do things, you know, and I was taught system 40, you know, vertical. Okay. Yeah, I don't like to do that way. So I changed it. I did it my own way. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with that. No. It's my life, it's my money, and if I, you know,
well, you can recall it at the casino. You understand your own writing, you know. So
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Now, that's another thing. If you write things down, you understand them better.
That's right.
You taught that in about 3rd grade.
Okay.
So you know, I think Keith, just to kind of summarize this to this level at this point, you know, we talked about a lot of things in kind of a fairly short order. The whole idea, and I think when people see this whole document, it gives examples. Okay, now they're not Baccarat examples, but I mean, everybody that's listening to this call, or that will listen to it, is smart enough to figure out we're talking about Baccarat. Okay, even though this document doesn't necessarily do that, but you'll get the gist of it. Okay. Again, this came to me. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, you know, to some degree, but it really hit me hard about a week ago when I got up in the middle of the day. In the middle of the day, people standing behind the light, you know, I was showing them, this is what the toe board is. This is what it's doing. You don't know how to calculate the derived rows. You don't need to know how to calculate them, but watch what happens. Look, it goes up into the forecast. Now, if you see some pattern you really like, you know, that looks really strong, oh, that says play banker on the next one, you know? Exactly. They're like, how'd you know that? I said, well, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of people think they give you the tote board to confuse you. I don't believe that. They don't need to confuse you. You're already confused.
You're already.
You know, I don't mean, I'm not. You're already confused. No. But you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And I get a little excited about this because
no.
I mean, you know, I spend a lot of time. You know, I don't do it every day or anything, but I spend a lot of time trying to get better as time goes on.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately, that's really what I care about. I don't care about, you know, just going to the casino and, you know, being there,
killing time. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, questions.
And then, you know, we'll follow up with this with, you know, the next kind of an iteration of what we want to get into next with this and dive a little bit deeper into some of the statistics. But anybody have any comments or questions or smart remarks? So.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
So I forgot what casino it was at, but sometimes the tote board is not accurate. By that I mean, I was charting the derived roads, and you know how you're going between the blue and the red, which is your two different things that happen. They either follow or they skip. And what was actually happening on the main road was not always what the table showed, what their next predictable outcome was. And I found that in a few hands. So if you rely on the road to say, okay, well, they give you what the next predictions are going to be.
I stop just for one thing. You still have to decide between player and
I
banker.
know that. I know that's why I've come like you. I've practiced, so I know in my mind I know what the predictable in the other one is. But when you look at the board, sometimes it's not always the same thing. That's the part that's deceiving.
I've seen that, especially on the main road, where some casinos, the dealer, after the hand is played, the dealer has to put in player or banker. They got to touch the button.
Yeah.
Most of that's gone away, by the way. It's now automatic. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can't make errors. Okay. But I have seen that happen. I have seen some of the people at the table go, oh, wait. No, that was a player. You know,
Yeah.
And they got to, sometimes the pit boss got to come over, and whatever to reverse the, entry.
Yeah. I agree.
But to just clarify the stuff about the derived roads, again, you still have to make a choice between player and banker. You still got to decide.
Yeah.
Or is the data confusing with everything else that's going on in your head or on your, your cheat sheet or whatever? Yeah. And it's just not worth making that bet.
Yeah.
Okay. I see your point.
Yeah.
No.
Good point.
Yeah, I noticed that everything's usually pretty copacetic and straightforward on Stadium. It's all computerized, so they usually calculate the drive roads correctly. So
yeah.
Any other comments or questions or remarks? Nothing. Okay. Well, then we'll post when we do the follow up here, and I want to certainly thank everybody for showing up, and hopefully you'll go win a lot of money, and you'll share some with us. No.
Of course.
No, we're going to go to Hawaii there. Al wants us to come to Hawaii here one of these times again.
Yeah,
we'll come down. All right. Well, listen, thanks for coming, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, take care, everybody.
Take care, Kevin.
Real Rabbit, Leonard, JT down there.
Take care, guys.